What's up, guys? Seniors Meta here with Cadigan, who made top 16 at, I'll let you say it.
The Format Library's Edison World Championship qualifier, specifically the third one here. That's been running for the last month. And yeah, I participated, kind of threw a deck list together, something spicy, just wanted to have fun or die early, and ended up...
not dying early.
Ended up not dying early with what I'm calling Vaskii Turbo at the moment. Went 6-2, ended up 7th in Swiss by the end of it, and then promptly lost my first round of top 16 to Hero Frogs. You know, it just be like that sometimes.
Bro got distracted with existence outside of Yu-Gi-Oh! And made bad Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays in top 16.
No, my opponent was really good too. It's not just that I got distracted. I could not afford to mess up at all, and I did. I'll get into the list here real quick, but if anyone's curious, I played against and won against 2 Blackwings, a Machina, a Hero Beat, just a regular Frog Monarchs, and then a Diva Hero. My 2 Swiss losses were to Blackwing and Hero Frog, and then my top 16 loss was also to Hero Frog. All right, now to just get into the profile, 3 Vaskii. This is what the deck was founded on.
What does this card do?
It's a 8-star reptile, can't be normal set, can only be special summoned by tributing a 2/0 attack monsters from either side of the field. And then once per turn, you can select one face-up monster your opponent controls and pop it. Also, you can't control more than one. So it's a boss monster that you can kind of sort of get out pretty easily. You're not normally going to be tributing your opponent's monsters, despite how fun that is. You're normally just getting it out there with token shenanigans and popping your opponent's monsters. It plays really well into beatdown decks, and then kind of flounders a bit into the more control-y decks, but that's what your side deck's for. So I just like Vaskii. It's a neat card. It's a neat boss monster that doesn't really see that much play. I wanted to see if it could work, and it seemed to. So to build around it, we have 3. You wanted to commit. And then...
Have you considered playing 2 just because you can only control 1, or is that not an option?
I have, and I even originally had a list that only had 2, but ultimately I ended up liking 3. I did side out the third one against decks that were on Royal Oppression.
Okay.
Because it's just impossible to get out otherwise. But otherwise, 3 actually felt solid by the end of it. To support it, we have 2 other Reptilian cards, Gardna and Naga. Gardna is literally just a searcher. When it's destroyed, mandatory search a Reptilian monster from deck. And Naga is simply a Spirit Reaper-esque card. Can't be destroyed by battle. If anything battles it at the end of the battle phase, that card's attack becomes 0.
Permanently?
Permanently.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But it's not till the end of the battle phase, and during your end phase, if this card is face up on the field, it switches to attack position. So
essentially, you need to set it, get your opponent to attack into it. They have a 0, you have a 0, Vaskii.
That's the intent of this card.
And Gardna is also 0.
Gardna is also 0 attack. So really, I just wanted another way to search Vaskii, even though it's at 3, so I put a Gardna in there. And running just Gardna and 3 Vaskii seemed kind of goofy, so I wanted a problem-solving card. It was either this or an 1800 beater, so I chose Naga. It's also a level 1 for other synergies. It can be tribute fodder. The card itself actually didn't do all that much. I just didn't see it a lot. Gardna, though, was pretty good at being a wall and then being a sticky card on the field to get value.
And floating.
Out of cards and floating. To support that card, since we're not really relying on your opponent to do things for us, we're running 2 Dandylion for token generation.
Well, look, 2/0 attack monsters. Crazy.
Yeah, the math adds up. So Dandy is a really easy auto-include.
Bro can add 0 plus 0.
Yeah. And we are running 1 quick draw to go with it. Just 1. I don't really feel like the deck supports a second one all that well. This deck is not currently on Pot of Avarice, so if you discard a bunch of cards and summon a bunch of quick draws, you're not really making up that advantage very easily. 1 felt very good, though.
Is there a particular reason you're not playing Pot of Avarice?
I didn't have the room.
Fair.
There's maybe a card or 2 you could cut if you wanted to support it, but in general, this deck as is does not do a lot of milling. So you're not getting to 5 monsters in the graveyard until mid-game.
You're not like on Hamster Reiko.
I'm not.
Like, yeah.
There's a card trooper in here, but that's about it. So those are some token generating cards, and There's also a hero package in here for Future Fusion synergy. I'll get to that later. But you know what card also likes sacking off a bunch of tokens? This card, Plasma. It's almost an alternative Vaskii. However, the skill drain effect is very solid. In addition to these allowing you to run Future Fusion, this is also just a synergistic boss monster. And Alius, although it's really only in there to be another card to search off of Stratos, sometimes just having a 1900 beater in a deck that sometimes just likes to set cards is kind of nice. I actually valued it pretty highly towards the end of the tournament run as just a beater.
Just because it's something you're not setting and you don't have those two monsters, you don't have to worry about an effect resolving to do anything.
Exactly. Okay. If you had a hand of just a bunch of sets, that's great. But if you need to advance the game state, Stratos into Alius is like 2 turns of aggression.
Makes sense.
It worked out pretty well. I summoned a Plasma a few times. It won me some games. Great card. All right, so we mentioned Dandy. Can't mention Dandy without also mentioning Debris Dragon. Only 2, again, because we're not milling all that much. We do have the 1 card trooper, but that's really about it outside of just straight up Foolish Burial.
And what is the 1 card trooper for?
Sometimes you do just want a hard mill. The Dandylion, you'd want another Debris target. Other than that, it's just kind of in there as a general good card. You can maybe swap it out if you don't care to mill at all.
Because I'll spoil it. You took out Miracle Fusion.
I did.
That's why I'm wondering why the card trooper made the cut when Miracle Fusion did not make the cut.
It's another card that has multiple purposes. It's a level 3 that you can get off of Debris Dragon. It's a 1900 beater if you need it into cards. Sometimes you just sack and mill Dandy. It was in there just as a general good card that occasionally has better synergy payoff. But you're right. I did take out a lot of the graveyard synergy. This card could come out. Honestly, I tended to like having it. It also works pretty well with Trag. So, I don't know. But it worked well.
Trooper Trag is how it feels to chew 5 gum.
Yeah. We also have other level 3s that work with Debris, namely Snowman Eater.
Yeah, that card has 0 attack.
Snowman is the card that I should have maxed out at 3, though. This card does everything for the deck on paper. It has 0 attack. It's got a big butt to survive. It offers disruption. It offers tribute fodder for your Vaskiis and then like Caiuses and things like that, which we're getting to next. It's also a water for Future Fusion. I mean, it really does do kind of everything you want. Future versions of this deck that I play will probably have 3 of this. So that's kind of your Debris, the rest of your Debris synergy there. I am playing 2 Caius. I might bump this up to 3, and I'll explain why later. Card's just good, and you have a lot of ways to summon it onto the field. That's really all I got to say about it.
Vaskii pop sack off, kind of good.
Yeah, you can do that. Otherwise, sometimes you have extra tokens lying around that you can just sack for a Caius. We play Sangan. It helps search Quickdraw if you have a Debris in hand, or a Dandy, or helps search Debris if you have it live. Just searches a lot of your weenies. This Cyber Valley was in here for a few hypothetical reasons. But
it plays super well with the tokens, but its best function is being summoned off
Road Warrior. The one time I had the opportunity to do it, I had this in my hand too, which is really bad. The thought being that it's another versatile 0 attack monster. It can stall, you can sack it from Vaskii, you can draw cards with tokens if you need to. It was ultimately kind of a random throw-in when I was trying to figure out like the last 2 cards to finish the list.
So that card rocks, so it makes sense.
But it worked out. Like, it was not bad ever. It was just okay at least. So that's it for the main deck stuff aside from Gorz Trag. I was pretty unimpressed with Trag, to be honest with you. A lot of the times I am in this format with it. Maybe I just don't play it well, but I didn't find it super impactful for me. Gorz was pretty good, despite there being 2 continuous spell traps in this deck that you'll see shortly. Gorz Trag. Not much more detail you need. Going into spells, I'm going to cover the token generators. First, though, we're going to cover the indirect ones. Foolish and Future Fusion. So you might have noticed with the heroes, this list was initially inspired by the Quickdraw hero decks that have been going around. I really like the idea of Future Fusion just being another Foolish Burial for Dandy, for Gaia. And it was extremely solid. Anytime I opened Future Fusion and consented Dandy, it felt like it was setting me up for the rest of the game. I felt very confident going forward. Foolish is also there literally just to send Dandy. I did not opt to include any other graveyard synergistic cards like Plague or Treeborn or Shell. You could, going forward, Treeborn probably being the best one, since you could also send it with this for some synergy. But 85% of the time, just going straight for Dandy with these was fine.
All right, so before we move on, I gotta know, we said no miracle, but you never said why no miracle.
Ultimately...
Because it was 1, right? It was originally just 1?
I was originally just at 1, like a lot of quick draw hero builds were. In the limited testing I did before this, I just found that without... you'll also see I don't even run Rhoda. I often found that if I was on Rhoda for Stratos, I was often... If I didn't see Future Fusion first, half the time I was out of heroes before I saw Future Fusion, and that just felt bad to dead draw. And then sometimes I'd just see Miracle, but none of the heroes or the Future Fusion. So I was at a weird crossroads where I either had to commit more to the hero side of things or really slim it down.
And just be like, hey, if I draw Future Fusion, neat. If I don't draw Future Fusion, or if I draw dead Future Fusion, it happens.
That's pretty much what it came down to. Stratos is fine by itself to search Plasma. And I ultimately went with the slimming it down route. I think if you want to run Rhoda Miracle Fusion, you could, but you probably want to run at least one more hero, in my opinion. I know all lists don't do that, but that's my personal train of thought on it. Yeah, because I dead drew Miracle a lot. Not as many times as I dead drew Future Fusion.
But Future Fusion is a house.
Future Fusion is a whole house. So I like it as is, but take that criticism with what you will. Other token generators, obviously Scapegoat generates 4. That's 2 Vaskies, just not at the same time. Really easy summon for Vaskii, really easy summon for Plasma. But we also ran triple Fires of Doomsday. All this card does is summon 2/0/0 Fiend Dark tokens in defense position. Just like Scapegoat, you can't summon anything else the turn you use it. You can set it. But you can set on the same turn, and you can only tribute you can tribute the tokens for like econ and stuff, but for summons you can only use them as a tribute for tribute summon of a dark monster.
So that's why Caius works.
So that's the alternative synergy to Caius, in addition to just having some high defense
and our other house in the extra deck, or in the side deck, I mean,
yeah. So this card ended up being fantastically versatile. Both just to summon out Vaskii, you're committing a card just to get another card on the board. Vaskii priority pop a monster automatically equals out that out most of the time. And this card also baits out MSTs and heavies, and you can just chain it. It's good just as defense if you have nothing else. It just puts 2 bodies out there so long as they're not swinging into you with a Bora. I found the card to be great. Nothing more to say at it. I think I'd keep it at 3 with a current list. If you cut Vaskii down to 2, you could maybe cut this down to 2 also, but frankly I think I'm going to lean more into more Caiuses, and keeping this at 3 seems fine to me at the moment. So those are your 6 token generators. I thought it performed well. It does kind of stink to draw like multiples at the same time, because you can never activate them at the same time. But you can just set one at a time, and most of the time it's fine.
Another odd question. Isn't Metal Reflect Slime 0 attack?
It is, and I'm not ready to approach that.
I didn't know if that was also a consideration.
It wasn't. Oh, God, could it be?
But 3K, but yeah, I just throwing it out there, because we're going on to Trap, so.
We still have a few more spells.
Oh, a few more spells? Okay.
You could, oh my God, you could unironically consider me Metal Reflect. I don't like that. It's only 1. That's probably why I'd stay away from it. It's only one body instead of 2.
But if you're going on 3 Caius, I'm just saying.
Yeah, you could, and it might not be the worst thing. It's not going to synergize with anything else, though. It's level 10.
Yeah.
So you can't synchro with it at all. So it's only Caius or like another 0 attack monster for Vaskii. Random last card or last minute inclusion was enemy controller tokens. Just tribute a token, take a card. That was literally the thought behind it. It worked out okay. Econ is just a swinging card sometimes. Could it be something else easily? Yes. Could it be that Pot of Avarice you want? Sure. I don't think it's worth it, but this is a flex slot, along with Cyber Valley, realistically.
It's chainable, though.
It is
Cyber Valley says draw cards, though.
Cyber Valley does. And then last generic, whatever one of, is Brain Con, and then Spell Trap removal, MST, Heavy, and Cold Wave. This deck plays Cold Wave really well. Most of the time, you're activating your token generating cards
Like in the end phase, and then
in your opponent's end phase, and then you just flip Cold Wave, summon Vaskii, summon Debris, and do whatever you want at that point. Because the ideal play is turn 1, you're sending Dandy somehow, and then you have your Debris set up for next turn. You can make a Stardust, you can summon a Vaskii alongside it, and being able to do that under Cold Wave is fantastic. So loved the card. It won me several games.
Cold Wave Black Rose probably feels really good.
That card too, yeah. Into the traps, it's mostly a lot of one-ofs. We have, I'll talk about Call first. Call was in here to help recur some of your weenie huts that, if someone MST'd your set, you just flip it and get Dandy, get some tokens, get Gardna, get a search, Sangan, same thing.
Card Trooper, get a draw.
You cannot bring back your big boss monsters with it. You can't get Vaskii, you can't get Plasma. Typically, the biggest card you're getting out of it that wasn't from the extra deck is like Gorz or Caius. It's okay. I thought the card was okay. Sometimes it underperformed. Sometimes all I had to bring back was weenies, and it felt like a crappy card. Sometimes I was able to bring back a token generator, sack it for Caius, summon Vaskii after tributing the Dandy. It's swingy. This card got sided out quite a bit against decks with Oppression. And just Frogs and other decks. I think it's fine. It's almost never a horrible card. But bringing back like a Snowman Eater with it, that's not what you're trying to do.
That card has 0 attack, though.
Generic one-ofs that don't really need much explanation. Dustshoot, double Bottomless, and Torrential. Great with your sticky monsters. You can Torrential when somebody summons something into your Dandylion. You get some tokens. You feel great. Mirror Force and Judgment. You can afford Judgment in this deck. If you try to put more Nagas in there, you're not going to like having low life. So I think this ratio ended up pretty well. I liked having some defense with Bottomless. If you wanted to make this deck more defensive, you could probably cut Call and Econ for D-Prisons and be fine that way. Overall, really liked how the deck performed that way. 40 cards, that was the whole main deck. I will get into the extra here. It's nothing special.
So you have Dragons and Quickdraw.
It's mainly Dragons and Quickdraw. It's literally one Iron Chain.
That's a dragon.
You don't have any 2s in the deck, but you do have cards that make 2 level 1 tokens. So in a pinch, if you have 2 Doomsday tokens and you just normal Debris, like you can make this. It's worth having 1 in there. What else are you doing with the space? Ancient Fairy, Black Rose, double Stardust, and Red Dragon to round out the Debris targets. For the hero stuff, we have 1 and 1. Since we're not running Miracle, this is fine. If you run Miracle, but make room for a second Ab-Zero. You definitely don't need a second Gaia, though. And then the quick draw side of things, double drill. It's worth having 2. The first drill can add back the quick draw if you still have tokens left over. And then it's standard from there. Turbo, Junk Archer, Nitro Warrior, and Road Warrior, because you have room for it, and you can technically get a Cyber Valley with it. And
it's 3K.
And it's a 3K body that has an upside. And then just a single Chimera Tech to round it out. Pretty standard stuff there. The side deck is also pretty standard. I'll get to some cards I thought about but ultimately didn't include at the end. We got double DD Crow, double Sidra, and
there's our house.
Double Vanities.
You can use the Doomsday, it's dark.
Yeah, you can definitely lean more into this card, and going forward I might actually put a third one in here. Just because you really do have a really easy time getting a Tribute Summon on board with your Snowmans, your Dandy tokens, your Doomsdays. So this is very easily summonable in this deck. Cyber Dragon against decks that are just beating you down too quickly. It's a good card.
It's good against Hero, it's good against Machina.
It doesn't need explanation. That is the monsters. For spells, we have double book and a single soul release. I was kind of worried about like Vayu and Frogs and maybe Norlaris, but that card puts in work against some of those. It was fine. I don't think it really came up. Book was good as a disruption for Frogs. General good card.
What was the hit on Frog with Book?
You typically use it. I would typically use it to either book the Vanities Fiend that they have out.
That's what I was thinking.
Because this deck crumbles to it, or to interrupt like their substitute shenanigans.
Okay,
They use it once and you just book the sub and don't have to worry about the duplock. Though this deck does pop duplock pretty easily with Vaskii.
Yeah, I was gonna say because the books are really good for cards like Christia and stuff like that.
Yeah,
in Vanities.
This deck gets screwed by Oppression, Vanities, Christia, anything that stops your special summons, because that's mostly what you're doing. And then traps, double deep prison, double dust, double rug, frogs, anything that sides oppression, and stuff like black wings that sometimes just eat your weenies for breakfast.
Dusting Whirlwind feels really good too.
Yeah, it does. Other cards you can consider, you have enough high attack darks to side deck dev if you really want to. I think it would be relatively consistent to do so, especially if you bumped up Caius by 1. I opted not to. I did not expect a lot of decks that would be crippled by deck dev to be in this tournament, and would rather have this for frogs. Do I regret it? No, I think I made the right choice, but it's something you can consider overall. So that runs out the side deck. Overall, the deck felt very solid. It just has a lot of engines that do a lot of synergistic things, but also function well by themselves. Vaskii always felt good to summon. It really was the centerpiece of the deck. It always provided value in some way.
So it wasn't just like Reptilians getting carried by good cards?
No, it wasn't quick draw with Reptilian flavor. It was Reptilianne Vaskii with other flavors too.
Cards that support summoning Vaskii.
So
which makes sense.
The deck definitely did what it was supposed to. It did it well. We will be making a separate video going over the replays, or at least showing them to you, just so you can kind of see how the deck works against meta decks, because that's pretty much all I played against was all real decks with all real players, which felt great to succeed in that environment. And when the format library tournament isn't even done yet, it's one of those multi-day tournaments. It's taken a while. I'm already out of Top Cut.
Yeah, so we don't want to give lists, so we're not going to show replays because then people know what everyone's on or whatever. It's just once the tournament ends, then you can actually start talking about it. But we can show this list because it's ours.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to talk too much about anybody else's lists, but wanted to get this out there. If anybody ever wanted to play this card and do well with it, now at least you have an example to look off of. I definitely think there's other variations of decks that maximize this card that can succeed, and I'm going to be trying to do that in the future.
Sure to like and subscribe for more retro format content. Thanks for watching, guys.